Hey, welcome back once again to Real Podcast, right here where we are always encouraging you to live a relevant, engaging, actionable life with myself, Kinsley Jordan, and Pastor Brad Mendenhall from World Harvest Church, as we continue to not only give you encouragement throughout the week, but also keep you up to date with what's happening just literally here in life at World Harvest Church. And whether you attend with us on a Sunday or virtually, or whether you just love the Real Podcast, we love having you because we love to, more than anything, bring the transparency of what ministry is, what Jesus is doing in our life, and also discuss the challenging and
it's a good opportunity
the challenging moments.
Good opportunity to kind of look under the hood of ministry and see what it looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we wanted to take an episode and just honestly, literally do that. Lift up the hood and let you know what's going on here, not only as a church, but also what it's meant for ministry and kind of the perspective from the pastoral sense of what has this meant for church, because a lot of states, a lot of organizations, a lot of places have literally kind of shut down business for the most part. Right. And it's definitely looked different for us, but what has that impact been kind of across the church as a whole? So first, you've mentioned it a couple times even during the Sunday messages that it's, and I've noticed it as well, leading worship, it's different for sure. For sure. Having an empty congregation when you're ministering the gospel or when you're leading worship. Initially, is that anything you would have thought of, for the last several years of saying, I'm going to be preaching to empty chairs?
Never even would have dreamed that we'd be in a situation like we're in. And and of course, none of us ever expected that this would happen, where we'd have, businesses shut down and having to live the way we're living right now. So I think it caught us all by surprise. All of our lives have been upended. In ministry, it has been something, been different. Going into it, I mean, that first Sunday will probably be a Sunday I'll never forget. About how difficult it was to preach with the same passion. Because I'm a guy that I don't look at myself as just necessarily a lecturer, but I like to think I'm a communicator. And a communicator, you feed off an audience. Kind of see, does this point hitting home or is it not? And you kind of adjust your pace and you adjust even some of your content with how it's being received. With what you're feeling in your heart. So it was a big learning curve. We've done it, 4 Sundays now. So I don't want to say I'm getting used to it, because I don't want to ever just get used to it. But it is getting better. I feel like we're connecting well. We've got a lot of great response from those viewing. We've seen a vast number more of people connecting now. Of course, people are searching too. So searching for hope and searching for answers. And so we see people from all across the globe connecting right now. So got a following in Africa. Of course, we're doing a lot of ministry to Uganda. Done some ministry there. We've both had opportunities to minister via radio there to the whole country of Uganda, and Kenya, Africa, Germany. We got people watching from all the world, and of course all over the United States too.
And that's one of the things that when I think initially when this whole started, and when you heard rumors or thoughts that business was going to be shut down, and that we've really got to live through this whole social distancing aspect and mindset, it's one of the things you don't really have the gravity of what's going to happen until you're kind of in the middle of it. But the byproduct of it, because me, I'm a big briefing and debriefing guy. If you don't learn from the lessons that you've had the opportunity to learn from, then you're not going to be able to move forward with the efficiency and the effectiveness that you would like to. So one of the really cool things that I've seen is that you're right. We are reaching a totally different demographic than if the focus had been just focusing on a Sunday service experience here with people, but that also has taken not only the production level. I say production not in the sense of it's fake or anything is fake, but the way in which we are able to virtually construe and show and share the relationship with Jesus that we're having here, and how do we share that with people online? The production value of what we've been able to offer people in their homes, wherever they're at, has just gone through the roof, which the normal pace of ministry probably wouldn't have allowed that on the timeline that we were able to do it, which has been huge because just that reason alone, how many more people were able to reach in a different area geographically, even if they're locally here, people are tuning in the local area that previously hadn't been, because their friends are sharing the post of what's going on.
And that's what's been cool about that is, especially on Facebook, you have that ability to host a watch party. And that's one of the cool things I've been hearing a lot lately, especially the last few Sundays, how people are starting to learn that, and how people are sharing it with all their friends. And one of our ladies, she's a little older than us, and she had, I think, 40 some of her friends watching church with her. And I thought, now that's a cool way
That's wild.
to do church together.
Oh my gosh.
Is to share that. You not necessarily in the same room, but you're sharing hope. You're sharing the Word of God.
Yeah.
Of course, our worship has just been phenomenal. Our worship is always phenomenal, but you guys have been doing an incredible job with that. But it's people are hooking into that because it's one thing we like to say around here, it's not about performance, but it's about the presence.
Yeah.
The presence of God, presence over performance.
Yeah.
And there's an aspect of their excellence we do strive for, but it's always, that's not the driving force. We want the presence of God to be sensed and to be felt in the worship and the message, all that's done. We've been doing the interactive panels. We didn't do it on Easter, but we, as long as we're doing what we're doing, we do these interactive panels. And we've had a lot of great response to that. People enjoying that, a little discussion, the application of the message and pulling out some of those points.
Yeah.
And, even next Sunday, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be good. So it's caused us to think differently and to do things a little differently. I've been on a lot of calls the last several weeks with a group of pastors that I'm involved in, and the consensus of them all is it'll never be normal like it was.
Yeah.
People have been saying, the new normal. Well, this isn't the new normal. This is just temporary. But what we will end up doing will not be what we were doing.
Yeah.
There's going to be a different focus in it, different ways of doing it, different ways of stewarding the ministry that we have here. Because, just through all this, we've seen that we've gone from probably a more centralized local reach to now, we're literally preaching to people. Majority is still in this area, of course, but there's a high percentage now that's, East Coast, West Coast, and like I said, across the globe right now.
Well, and I love, God has an amazing way of giving you foreshadowing of what's to come without you knowing. I don't know if people are literature people, but that was one of the terms I always loved, that you could kind of tell what's going to be coming with the story, but you don't really know. You have that foreshadowing that's happening, and it's amazing that when you look at how we kind of re-engineered and refocused what our focus is as a church of taking a real Jesus to a real world. Now we can kind of laugh about it because how true is that? Because really, it's completely changed how we think about how we're interacting with our members, and how are we taking this gospel and sharing it with them. How are we enabling ourselves in the ministry and services to interact with our members in an online experience? And then what does that look like when we're once again able to come back into these doors? And one of the things, because I know that's been a question some people have had, hey, the stream's been amazing. Is it going to go back to just what the live stream was before? And that's an honest question. But I'd like to say, no, not with our best efforts. It's not. We're never going to go back with the ground that we've been able to take now. And that's one thing in your heart and Pastor Tammy's heart, is that what the ground that we take, we move forward to, we will never go back to. That it's important to take sustainable steps that once we grow to a certain level, listen, there's no retrograde. We're not going to go backwards. Every step forward we take, we're going to keep that step moving forward. And those are some really fun discussions we've had that, 2 months ago, I never thought we would have been having these discussions of, something as simple as a mobile camera, so that our viewers have that experience of being in and around and in the surface.
Yeah. And one thing, we don't believe in evolution, that we came from monkeys, but one thing about ministry is it's always evolving. We're created in God's image, but what we do evolves. And so we're not going to look forward to going back to what we were doing. Now, it's could look similar to some things, but there'll always be modifications, a little fine tuning in that, because we've talked about this. This hasn't caught God by surprise by no means.
No.
And everybody that's even watching right now, I think that's a question we all got to ask ourselves right now: is coming out of this, what am I going to do different? For some, hopefully they're going to start slowing down, taking time to be family. Because right now we're being forced to, or not. I don't want to say forced, but that's kind of the default. That's all we have. We don't have sports. We don't have to run little Johnny to baseball and all this other stuff, school events, because it's all virtually shut down. So everybody's right now is experiencing those family time. So I hope that people will take away from this time, realizing the value of, spending time with kids, spending time with husbands and wives, and, the loved ones around us. Because, we came going into this thing, it was all just, life was flying so fast.
It was.
I don't know about for you, but for me, these last several weeks has been just like slow. I mean, it's like
I'd like to say it has been.
Well, everybody except for you, because everything you're doing. But I find myself even through the weekday, like, wait, what day is this?
Yeah. Oh, that's 100% true.
That is 100% before I knew, I could tell exactly what day it was, what hour, because everything was flying so fast. I had to be that way. But now, sudden life has gotten slower for so many. So
well, and I'd like to encourage our viewers to seriously do that. Like, intentionally take time, set aside time in a day to figure out what does your new normal look like. What do you want to be intentional about? Because if you don't take time to stop and do that, there's been so many great leaders and books that I've had the opportunity to read, as I'm sure several of the same ones that you've read, where development is intentional. It's not accidental. That if you want to develop yourself and develop what is going to be your priority in life and what your focus is going to be, you have to take intentional steps to do it. Just like reading the Word. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to intentionally decide, I'm going to wake up in the morning, and the first thing I'm going to do is get in the Word and get in the Bible and feed my spirit and feed my soul, so that as I move forward, my flesh is powered, I'm ready to go. So I encourage you guys to do the same exact thing, is that take a time and be able to assess and say, what is our new priority going to be? Because I think the greatest mistake we could make is not seize the opportunity and the lessons learned in this the madness of COVID, whatever it is, and not learn from those benefits. And I'll say, for me, Brooke and I have talked about it before, I've loved that. Even though the day schedule has been crazy, I've loved the family time and the family folks. We've had more meals. We've had more meals together. Yeah. Our friends have had more meals together. And social distancing. You can hate me as much as you want, but I think I've seen more people now than I have ever. Honestly, between our friends and the people, I think in our mind mentally we say, social distancing, well, that counts for everybody, all the strangers I don't know, but all my friends were certainly fine. Not necessarily true, but it's one of those things that if you intentionally take time to say, what does the new normal look like? And frankly, I would encourage us not to just rush back into it. Take your time.
That's the thing. And as we're shooting this, we're right here in the middle of April. Somebody's going to be watching this, and we've done past it, and we're already back to whatever life looks like several weeks, a month or two ahead of time. New but right now we're in the middle of this, here in the middle of April. In fact, it's April 15th, I believe today is. And so, on April 15th, the governor, he announced how, come April 30th, May 1, we're going to start trying to work towards this reopening, business reopening the state up. And so none of us really know what it's going to look like, but I do know this, that we're going to get several weeks past now, a couple months from now, and this is going to still be, of course, a big memory, benchmark in our lives, but life is going to be kind of returning somewhat to the way it was, in a sense, far as we're going to start seeing sports happening and gatherings start happening again in that, and God forbid that we forget about the lessons we're learning right now.
So what does it look like as far as your frame of mind, what you see in just moving forward as the church now? So immediately in my mind, I'm thinking, we've already talked about how we love the introduction of having, into service for our streaming experience. Love having the introduction like Brittany and Christina have been doing. That when you come back to church, you may literally see as you walk in the door a camera and two people standing there with a microphone doing an introduction to our online streaming audience. Because listen, the people in Uganda, our friends and family in Uganda, and this last week as we were doing worship, I was talking to the people in New York, and I don't know if they're watching, but praise God, they will be someday at some point. It doesn't matter in this moment what it looks like, but what your experience may be when you actually show up to church here, there's going to be some things that are different, and that's growth. That's exciting.
In the past, before we went into this, we were online, but it was more just so people could observe what was going on through a service. It's just an observation experience. So the question that we're still working through a lot of details is, how do we not go back to that where people that are online continue just to observe it, but to participate in that, so to feel like they're part of that.
100% true.
And so 100%. There's some things that we've learned through this process I think we can do, and so our challenge is going to be incorporating live into not just an experience for those that are in the sanctuary, but it'll still be an online experience, worship experience in the homes. In that. So really in reality, what we want to have happen is just, we've got a 9 o'clock service and 11 o'clock service here in the building, but we want that online experience to be, it's like a little campus, its own campus too. So those are some details we're going to be working out, and probably better get on the ball a little quicker, because I got a feeling that I think the clock, because there is light at the end of the tunnel here, and I am believing that here in May, whether it's the first week of May or second week of May, I'm praying that we're able to start assembling again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As we're talking about transparency, what has been, not to put you on the spot, but what has been the most, paradigm shift in your mind when talking about ministering to people, when talking about ministry, just a total moment of transparency that people don't normally get to see? What has been the most groundbreaking thing to you, that whether it's shooken you to the core, or shooken,
from shaken. I started in full-time ministry in October of 1988. Of course, I grew up in a pastor's home there. So my dad started the church in Guyman in November of 1977. So I was 10 years old. So I've been in church life. And so for me, it's been, because way I've known church since I was 10 years old suddenly shifted, 3 weeks ago. In that. And we always talk about how, church is who we are and what we do. It's not about a building.
Yeah.
But it's easy to say, but for me, that was probably the most difficult thing, because everything that we have done, and I don't want anybody to get me wrong, I'm not glorifying the building by no means, but the idea of us coming together as the body, assembling together, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, that first Sunday, it was, for us to have to do a Sunday morning service in an empty building, that was really hard. So that's probably my biggest paradigm shift. It was one of those things. Before I took the stage, I had to, I was having to get my eyes cleared up from crying, from the tears, and, have Tammy come over and just pray with me for a minute, because I'm just like, man, this is not right.
Yeah.
But it was good. Because sometimes, and you all have been there in your life, where you get to a place where you get very comfortable with what you do. And the older you get, the worse that becomes. You get very comfortable, and change becomes harder to make. And so, in that, we were forced to make the change in that. But it's been a good change. It's been a good change. And I do look forward to when people are back in the building with us. But, it shifts it, because, in the last several weeks, like we were sharing earlier, we found that ministry is going forth. And this ministry we've been doing to Uganda has been huge.
Yeah.
Through Wilma Parnell and the missions work that's been taking place in Uganda all over the years. We have this connection with the missionary, and for the last several weeks, I've been preaching once a week. You've been preaching some. Brittany, Tammy, several other leaders at World Harvest have been preaching over there. But we're seeing an average, of 150 to 200 people a day coming to the Lord. These are recorded people that are calling in. And people being healed. During Tammy's ministry last week, some of y'all may have heard me say it already, but a lady had been blind, her eyes was open. A guy that had been lame for a year and a half, unable to get out of bed, suddenly got out and walked. And that next day when I come online, he had been walking around that day for over an hour and a half. And, the power of God is going forth. And I know here, church, and even the people that have been listening online, I've been hearing a lot of reports just how it's been ministering to them. So for me, I guess answer the question is that God can move beyond what we think is normal. It's not about a building, but it's God's been moving, been seeing tremendous support. We've got a good handful of people that are still financially supporting the church. They've been mailing their tithe in and giving online, so it helps keep the operation of the church going there. So, it's been a good experience, I'll say. We're making the best out of it.
Yeah. One of the things when we talked about, we talked about evolutionary. There's a difference between revolutionary change and evolutionary change. Revolutionary change means that everything literally is a revolt. Everything is thrown on its head. And evolutionary change, a lot of times, some of the greatest changes we see are more evolutionary in essence. It's not changing everything about what we do. I'd say revolutionary change may be considered, home church. We're going to get rid of a building and everybody's going to do church at home. That'd be revolutionary, I'd say, because it totally turns everything on its head. But these evolutionary steps are really, really, critically important. And you see this over and over again, that if we're not willing to grow, and if we're not willing to change and kind of pivot as life changes and people's experiences in life changes, then you won't be able to have the opportunity and the capacity to continue growing. And that's what I love more than anything, is that, I don't know what the next 6 months looks like. I know that we're going to have to sort through things of, are we going to do a third service when people come back? What does it look like for this the online experience for people, because it's a whole another campus.
Because nobody knows what's going to happen that first Sunday. Is it going to be everybody's going to rush back, or is it going to be some people are going to stay away? Even the governor said, May 1, going to start opening the country up, but those still at risk. Yeah. It's going to be till May the 6th, and so it could be a gradual coming back. We don't know, and nobody can tell us, because nobody has been here before. So we just got to keep our faith in God, keep looking ahead, doing the best we can with what we got, and trusting God that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be okay.
You can leave. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your ideas. As always, if you have questions not only about the message, you can, but also about the Real Podcast, because as we say, we're consistently trying to bring and encourage you to live a relevant, engaging, actionable life. You can literally text us right now as you're hearing this to 580-402-8110, any questions you have. And we want to hear your comments. We want to hear what you have to say, because we love feedback. We're a culture and a family that loves to get input. So in the comments section below, you can literally type your ideas. So we were talking about, hey, what would you like to see? What have been some of the things you've really enjoyed, or things maybe you didn't enjoy that we can work on or improve? We want to hear that from you right now on the Real Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in again, as we kind of have a week of transparency to just kind of share what's going on and what the way forward looks like for us. Make sure you join us next week, as not only we'll have a recap of a phenomenal message with Pastor Tammy coming up this weekend, but also continue to bring you the content that helps to change and shape your life each and every day right here on the Real Podcast. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.